Hey everybody, this is Todd Fields. You are at the Rocket webinar. We're going to be talking today about how to ignite your church's worship culture. And you're early if you're on right now. They say the early bird gets the worm, so you get the prize. We'll have another prize for you later in the day for hanging on. We know your time's valuable, but if you're on right now and you're here before all the other worship leaders, we'd love to hear from you. So we've got a chat stream, as you can see on the app here, and you can write a message to us. So we'd love to hear from you, maybe what your name is, what church you're at, what part of the country or world you might be watching from. But we're just going to hang out a little bit and get started a little bit after 2 o'clock after we have some people on. It's a lovely day here in Atlanta, Georgia. It's been crazy hot this summer. I don't know about you, but summer's a great time to take a break from school. What's up, Curtis? Curtis Kent is on. How you doing, buddy? Daniel, Willie, man, you guys are flooding the chat stream. Go ahead and shoot us a message in the message stream. We want to see where you're from. San Diego, Leesburg, Virginia. Trisha in Michigan. Scott, Josiah from Tacoma, Washington. All over the place. This is awesome. We got Diane from Green Bay. Brett from Kansas City, Missouri. Man, it's so good to have you guys. We know your time's valuable and you have a lot going on in your church world and in ministry. It's crazy a lot of times. There's just not enough time in the day. Ontario, Canada. Man, Curtis is back on. Junior from Monroe, Georgia. Haley from New York. God, you guys keep telling us where you're from. It's great to see that you're going to be joining us today. We can't wait to get into the discussion. Just about church worship, and I know for a lot of us it can be a ridiculously tiring, exhausting ministry to be a worship leader and to be in a church and on a stage week after week. And we've all got different challenges. Neil from London, welcome all the way from across the pond. It is late in the afternoon for you guys over there. And we got Rick from Pennsylvania jumping in, John from Covington, Danny from Stockton. It's great to know you guys are jumping on board with us. Greg from Chicago, Illinois. I'm actually going to be in Chicago. Greg and Mario going to be there in about a week or two, taking my son Carter to see Coldplay. He wanted to see Coldplay. It's his favorite band. And we're going to head up on a father-son trip up there. It's going to be awesome. Mary Ann, all the way from Puerto Rico. Welcome, Central America. This is awesome. And all the way from Kansas, we got Martha. Ontario, you got Delph. Man, this is great. Hamilton, Ohio. Guys, my name's Todd Fields, and I'm your host and friend for the next hour. We're going to be hanging out with worship leaders from literally all over the United States and the world. And we're going to be talking about how to ignite your worship culture. And if you're like me, it can be a really, really frustrating job standing on a stage week after week, sitting in meetings week after week, just being in church world and trying to balance that with family and all that we have on our job description. So it's a crazy, crazy, crazy thing we try to do. And I've been a worship leader for, golly, almost 25 years now. I've been plugged in to North Point Community Church here in Atlanta, Georgia, with my pastor, Andy Stanley, since we started back in like 1996. So I've been a worship leader all those years and at North Point, and I've just seen God do awesome things through different friends and relationships and families all over our community and literally just around the world as we've gotten to network with different churches and different people. But let's go ahead and get started. And right off the top, I want to tell you, we know your time's valuable, and we've got something that's a free gift we want to give you for those of you who hang out and pay attention, take great notes, make it to the end of the web stream today. We're not going to be here a ridiculously long amount of time, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And we've got a gift for you at the end. If you hang out, it's going to be free to you. So hopefully you glean a lot of encouraging, helpful, practical takeaways from our time together. It's my joy to be here with you, and I wish I could see everybody's faces and we could have serious convos. But we can have a conversation. I'm going to be talking and I'm going to be giving you guys as much information and help as I can as we go along. But with this chat stream, you have the ability to send us your questions. So as I'm teaching, as I'm telling stories, as I'm talking, if something pops into your head and you're thinking, I want to ask Todd what he thinks about that, please feel free to use the chat stream because we want to hear from you. We want this to be a two-way conversation. I've been around this long enough to know how boring it can be listening to one guy talk the whole time. So I'll try to make it as interesting and engaging as possible, but we do want to hear from you. Kelly, Michael from the 505, Zach from Maryland. Man, you guys just keep popping up. Oh, Jay, you're in Dallas. You grew up, went to First Baptist. That's awesome, man. I used to be there. Got Sir Hollis from Santa Barbara. Hello from Michigan, Wendy. We're glad you're with us. Dave, Russ and Dave are in Sacramento. I was in Sacramento back in January with my wife. We went to Jesus Culture to hang with Kim, our friend, and just loved it there. Sacramento is beautiful. Hello from Southern Tennessee, Jeff. Welcome, and Alan. Well, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to just kind of give a little bit of a backdrop. At North Point, the church I've been in, I've not just been at North Point. I've traveled a lot in my tenure as a worship pastor, as a worship leader, songwriter, and all that. Been all over the country with different Catalyst events, and so I know what it's like to be in a small church, to be in a large church, to be in a medium-sized church. And I know what it's like as a worship leader to spend really your life and calling on what you believe God's called you to do, which is stand up on a stage, to craft sets, to try to engage people, to know and to respond to this God that's radically changed your life. And I know how deflating that can be when you put all of your life and time into it and you get up on stage and you just feel like, it seems like as weeks go by, people aren't engaging as much. They're just kind of hanging, kind of becoming more spectators maybe. I know what that's like because North Point's been that way. We've had seasons where, at the beginning, when we started up like 20 years ago, Louis Giglio was around. We had this thing called 722, and we just had this really dynamic corporate worship culture, and it was fired up. People were on board, and then you can go through seasons in worship where you're like, what happened? Things are just not they don't seem to be as engaging, and as it's just not looking like maybe what I had envisioned or even what I want to give my life to. Sometimes it's just like, I feel like I'm just trying to swing and I'm striking out. I know what you feel like when you do that. But every church has a worship culture. And for our definition of what we're going to be talking about today, worship culture is the agreed upon values for the corporate church setting. It may be stated in your culture, like, hey, this is what we want our worship culture to look like. You may have never had a talk with your team or with your pastor or anyone about what you want your worship culture to look like. So you've either talked about it and you have an idea, or it just looks like this is what we do. We've been doing this for years and this is just how we do it. But it's important to know what your agreed upon values are, because if you're not shooting for something, you're not going to hit it. If you're not aiming for something, you're just going to kind of be shooting blanks. And I hate to let any Sunday go by when there's not a kind of idea of what we're shooting for. For some churches, and your church may be this way and your pastor may be this way, teaching is a chief value, and that's great. Some churches are, high on teaching. Some of them are high on singing. And but regardless, your church's worship culture experience comes from a few places. One, and the main one it comes from, is the lead pastor. You may have a lead pastor that just gets worship, understands that, man, when we can rally people around a truth, help them to respond in singing, it's just really powerful. And the Holy Spirit does some awesome, powerful things in that. You may have a pastor that's like, hey, this is just singing and I need to talk. And that's okay. That's his personality. But he is a worship leader. And if you're a pastor listening today, I just want to encourage you to know that you are a worship leader. And the things that you value and the personality that you have will become the DNA of the worship culture of your church. So if you're a worship leader watching, pay attention to that. And the takeaway right away as we talk about culture may be that you need to just sit down with your pastor and say, hey, let's dream about what this could be. Here's where we are, and let's see where we could go. The second place culture comes from is your staff. what you guys value as a team. And then at North Point, we have like a leadership team. So, leadership team is like the head elders and the people responsible for how we run and everything. So those are 3 places you get your culture. So you may be thinking, well, Todd, how can we affect change when it feels like everything will always be the way it is? Do you ever feel like that? You feel like it's just always going to be this way. We're always going to do this many songs, or, this is just going to be how the service is every week. But your church's culture is really a response or a non-response to what's being valued by all involved. So as I've sat down to just think about, pray about, and prepare about what I wanted us to talk about today, I think there's 3 things that greatly affect participation in worship. We're going to talk about these 3 things. And then at the end of these 3 things, I'm going to give you a secret that we've been doing at North Point lately, and I've seen God use it in a massively powerful way to ignite our worship culture in a new way. Even after 20 years of being involved as a church, 20 years of leading worship, I would say this one thing has just been off the charts helpful for us. So hopefully you can take it away. It'd be a takeaway for you to take to your team, pray about, and implement. So first of all, the first thing that greatly affects participation in worship are the songs we sing. If you've been to any of my webinars, if you've been a Worship Rocket member, if you've listened to anything I've talked about over the years, especially recently, as I just look back and think about why people engage in singing, songs are the worship fuel of your church. And I can't tell you how many times I can look out over a culture and go, man, people just aren't connecting with these songs, but sometimes worship teams or worship pastors think these are the songs we need to be doing. Analogy, but don't use cheap gas. Songs are like worship fuel in your church. And if you don't give your church the right fuel to consume, that really is where the Holy Spirit's leading you and your church with subject matter and theme and what he's doing in your midst. If you don't lock into that with those songs, people aren't going to be able to jump on board. I can't tell you how many times we leave our audience in the dust musically because we think that what needs to feel fresh to us is what we need to do, when in actuality, our audience and the people we're leading week after week, man, they're just getting on board to learning about worship. They're still at 10,000 reasons going, I love this song. They're still grabbing onto some hymns and need to stay there for a little bit before we take them to some newness and that stuff. So first, songs to worship fuel. Second, trim your song list down. Most churches have way too many songs they're drawing from. I can't tell you how many churches I've talked to as I've consulted with churches year after year, and we start with, how many songs are you drawing from? And you guys, maybe you're like this, but there's just way too many songs involved. And then when there's too many choices, you're missing out on leading people well, because it's just not the right approach. You're not able to scale things down and give people handles to something they can grasp and use. So idea is, we've got to trim our song list down. Singing a song that relates to the pastor's message does nothing if it's a bad song. I'm throwing out points here that are major things for me as I've seen in worship culture, but a lot of churches and a lot of pastors say, hey, I want you to craft a set around my message. There's nothing wrong with that. But in my experience, oftentimes we sacrifice knownness and relatability of music to an audience in order to go along with the subject matter of the pastor. And in my opinion, as a worship leader and as a worship leader coach, I would tell you it's always better to engage people in worship, period, than it is to emphasize a necessary point. There'll probably be some questions come up on that. We can tackle those later. Guys, in the Worship Rocket program, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later, it's just awesome. There's been over 1,000 churches that have done it, and reply after reply, people are being encouraged by it, helped by it. It's a way for you to connect and grow and with our community. But we have a thing called song sifting. We teach it in that. I'm going to give you just a really quick summary of what that is. We go into it in way more detail for you and your team in the module. But for now, It's this: we want to hold the hits. Basically, you should get a team together of people who are going to analyze what songs you're doing, people that you pick, lay people, musicians, involve about 7 or 8 people. You want to get your massive song bank and you want to trim it down. You want to hold the hits, the songs that everybody goes, these songs are our church's anthems. We've got to do these. They're so powerful. Then we want to jail the stale. Some people are laughing. Sometimes songs are like, chewing gum. They have flavor for a while and you chew them, flavor goes away. So you've got to, with your song list, put a J by the songs that need to go in jail. And that doesn't mean you're never going to do them again. But it does mean that you need to take a break from them because you're wearing them out too fast. Number 3, out the old. And we want to out the old because sometimes you've got such a massive repertoire on your list. There's just kind of stuff cluttering up your ability to decipher what you need to put on your current set list. So I would say, we're basically, how when you're cleaning out your basement or you're cleaning out a room in your house, it feels so amazing when you're done because you eliminate the clutter. That's what out the old is. And then lastly, we want to review the new. And when I do a song sifting meeting, I want a member of the band, or I want somebody who has nothing to do with music to be in this meeting. And I want them to bring maybe one new song that they think would be a great confession for our church. Guys, it could even be a hymn that you feel like the Holy Spirit's just saying, this is for our church. We got to go back and freshen this hymn up, or do it in a way that everybody in our church will connect, because you're going to hear it all day long from me. I'm a hymn fan. Like, there's a reason they're called hymns. There's a reason, because I look at hymns like steak in our meal. Man, lots of protein. They teach people stuff. They encourage us, and they're anchors for our soul. And then lastly, in this song sifting process, in the module, we talk about making a master set list, and we show you how to do that. But we want to get the song list down to about 25 songs per few months and draw from that. It's just like cleaning up your house, cleaning up a room from your house. It really helps. We're going to get great singable new songs coming. And people ask me this all the time: Todd, when you introduce a new song, how much do you do it? I encourage people to do it twice, 2 weeks in a row, because you really can't evaluate something until you see if they're going to pick it up in week 2. And then you want to take a break for week 3. And then on the 4th week, you want to try it again. And then get your team to evaluate and say, man, this song is really working for our people. Let's keep it in our trimmed down list. So that's kind of the flow that I like to go with. So the application for you guys with songs is, man, make it a team thing. Open the conversation. If you're used to, as a worship leader, being the guy that uses, I've been the guy that plans all the songs. I do the set list. I want to just challenge you and encourage you that so much good can happen for your church if you'll just involve the right people, with no agendas other than what can we choose song-wise that our people are going to latch onto. Guys, I would much rather go back and start with just bare basic solid worship tunes that I know people love, and trim my set list of all the new stuff, go back to the stuff that I know they're going to get, and then slowly, it's like when you're teaching a baby how to eat solid foods. You give them a little bite, something new. They go, man, I like that. Start getting in, and then you're starting to ignite your culture, because you're allowing people to experience what it's like to sing again. It's beautiful. We've had to do that at North Point. We're 20 years old, and my friend Steve Fee and I and some of our team, we have seasons where it just feels like people are disconnecting a little bit, and we've got to go right back to these principles I'm telling you about. So I'm taking my own medicine. We're talking about this together as a team. So you're with me on this. We're going to be taking some questions about it. Somebody asked a question. There's one right now. I'll answer it before we go on to the second point. Krista says, I asked for input, but my team says everything is okay. How do you encourage more feedback from my team? Krista, I would just say, again, I think I said this, but it's so important to involve the right people in a meeting to sift your songs. It's so important. And you want different demographics too. You want different races. You want different age groups. No more than about 8 people, but make it fun, and And don't die on any hill. It's not about you getting your way as the worship leader. It's about listening and you guys praying and saying, God, lead our people in what we could do to help people to sing these songs better. All right, point number 2, the sets we craft. That's another thing that greatly affects participation in worship. If there are any weak songs, and I mean any weak songs in your set, don't settle for it. We had David Crowder in a thing I do the other day, and David was talking about this thing that I know you felt when you know that you've got a set crafted and your team feels so excited about what's going to happen in church that you almost can't wait for Sunday. You almost can't wait for what you know and sense is going to happen because, man, it's so powerful the way the thing's crafted and the songs you've chosen. So, they always say that the weakest link on a team will keep the team from being the greatest it can be. Well, I believe that in sets, if there's any weak songs, if there's any songs that your people are going to sit there and go, huh? Well, I don't get that. Then you got to pay attention to that because we don't have we just don't have the liberty to waste, the people's time. We want them to be great, want them to be engaging. So that's why it needs to be a team effort. Number 2, if the song sets or flow aren't moving you and your team, it won't move those you lead. I say this all the time, but if you're not moved by the song, your people aren't going to be moved. So if you're in charge of different worship leaders at your church, and one of the things that I often do, we do at North Point a lot, is we'll call the worship leader or text them, early on in the week or the week before they have to lead and say, hey, what's moving you right now? Because if we know that if the worship leader is being moved, then more often than not, their heart for what God's saying to them through that song is going to be really helpful to move the people they're leading. I love this quote from Chris Tomlin: song sets are like a river and our job is to help it flow. So, if you've seen a river flow, sometimes rocks get in the way. Sometimes people can dam up things and slow it down. We want the river of songs to flow. So as you're, messing with your song set, make sure it feels right from top to bottom. Make sure the songs are connected, that there's no dead spots, and that with keys and everything, you're working on your transitions. Again, today's just a taste of the worship rocket systems. I'm giving you guys just some frozen yogurt samples so you can kind of get your appetite wet for the other powerful teaching that comes in these modules. But pay attention to your song sets. Plan out your sets, but don't be so locked in that you can't follow culture. And this is just a right now example. A few weeks back when the tragedy happened in Orlando, at North Point, we had a set crafted. We were excited about the set. We were doing it. And then this tragedy happened. And I just felt like in some of our team, like that we don't need to do what we were going to do because our nation and our people were at a different spot. So part of your job as a worship leader is paying attention to what God's doing and what's going on in your community and in the nation, and then bringing hope to people through the song. So, I was praying about it, and it was like, I feel like the Lord just said, hey, this needs to be about me. So In Christ Alone is just one of those songs. It's like a steak song, as I was talking about earlier, a lot of protein. We did that song, guys, and one of our other worship leaders just felt like we needed to focus on Christ after the Orlando tragedy. And I can't tell you, people were rocked and moved, locked in. We were locked into where God was leading us. And that's the same thing you guys do week after week. You got your antennas up. You're saying, Holy Spirit, we've got this plan. But if something's going on in our midst that we need to lean toward, or that's going to help our people engage, we've got to do that. We can't be so fixated on our plan that we miss the wave that's coming that we need to ride, that's going to give people a fresh encounter with God. Don't forget that. All right, number 3, the third thing that greatly affects participation is the moments that we use or lose. And I say that because we do both with moments. I want to encourage you to be a moment finder as you craft sets, as you plan your worship with your church. This worship really is about encounter. It's people coming in, week after week with living in this just broken world that, they're hurting, they're lost, they're confused, their marriage they may feel like their marriage isn't going to make it. And we have an opportunity to give people hope because, man, melodies, the human voice, the whole thing is just so powerful that God can use truths with melodies to kind of wipe the mud off the windshield of people and help them see that there is hope. You guys are agents of hope, agents of life, week after week. You guys are on the front lines in your churches. And so I want you to have your antennas up, looking for moments that the Holy Spirit's going to lead you in. And the only way that can happen is if you sit with the Lord and ask him, God, here's my plan, but where are you leading me? Where are you leading our team? And have that kind of community with your team where you guys even talk about this, hey guys, this is what we had on the set for this week, but I'm feeling like this, or I feel like this isn't going to be as powerful as it could be. Always try to lead the kind of team and teach your team to be the kind of people that can kind of follow the energy and the heart of what God's telling you as you lead up to that week. It's just so much more fun to lean into that than to die on the hill of, nope, this is what we have scripted, we're sticking to it. We've had to learn that for a lot of years at North Point where I work. We had probably a decade, 8 to 10 years where, it was like, this is the plan, we're not changing it. How many of you guys can identify with that? This is the plan, we're not changing it. These are the songs we're doing, no questions asked. And, that's one way to do it. And there's some benefits to that because you can plan around it and you can craft different things to support that. And that's great. But just ask God to maybe help you lead your team toward being a little bit open-handed. There's some fun when you call an audible. And sometimes when you call an audible the day before or the week of, it gets your team out of that mundane thing of crafting stuff week after week, your production team, your worship team, and going, what, we're doing a different song? This is going to be kind of a challenge, and everybody leans in and does it. And it can just be super powerful. And then ask what part of a song, as you're looking for a moment, what part of a song, the bridge or a chorus, could be used to teach or reiterate a point. And then lastly, don't be afraid to stay there a bit. Probably a month ago, Steve Fee, he's been helping us at North Point with our music. He texted me and he said, me and Brett Stanfield, he goes, Brett, what do you and Todd have on your heart for worship this week? And I had some ideas, but they felt like kind of stuff that I was comfortable with. And I just got alone with the Lord and I was like, okay, God, what do you want? Is there something else you have for me? And as the Lord would have it planned, I was interested in listening to some of Jeremy Riddle's stuff. So I was looking on YouTube and I found Jeremy at Bethel Church doing a version of Great Are You, Lord. And guys, I watched this video of him doing it and it blew me away. Not just because Jeremy and the Bethel crew was doing Great Are You, Lord, but when if you've done that song, there's this bridge that says, all the earth will shout your praise, our hearts will cry, these bones will sing, great are you, Lord. And I feel like it helps the church worship. And I felt like as the worship leader, I wanted to do what Jeremy had done. What he did is after the song, he said, guys, we're going to go back. We're going to go back. We're going to back up a little bit because we just sang something in that bridge that is so huge. It's basically a foreshadowing of the hope that we have to come, where broken things will be made whole, where life will come from death, where Jesus is crowned king, and one day we're all going to be in front of him singing Great Are You, Lord. So we're going to practice that now, and I just want us to dig in, thank him for life, thank him for freedom. And that's how you create a moment. You just don't sing the song. And guys, I'm the first and foremost chief mistake maker in this. For years, my goal was to get from point A to point D in a song, and I thought, well, that's just worship leading. You just complete the song. But I want you guys to ask yourself this question. Lord, here's the set. Here's what I'm thinking. Here's where the momentum is. Is there something here that we could camp out in to reiterate and ask people to sing with us? Even pull the back bound, the band back, let it build. I'm telling you, it can totally change your worship culture when you pay attention to moments. Don't be afraid to stay there for a while. So just to reiterate, 3 things that greatly affect participation in worship: songs we sing, sets we craft, moments we use or lose. Guys, I want to take some questions real quick. We're going to go to this last secret that I'm going to share for you. And for those of you who are still hanging with us, having a blast, We're going to have a free gift for you at the end. And we're also going to have a special offer for you guys today. We've just basically hit the tip of the iceberg with what Worship Rocket is today in this training time. We've got so much more awesome stuff available for you and your team. And we're going to tell you about that in a little bit. But right now, I'm going to look at the chat stream. Actually, Haley, are you live right now? Are you
I'm here, Todd. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Guys, y'all say hello to Haley. Haley works with the Rocket Company. She's our assistant here today, fielding your questions. And she's going to help me look at some that you guys have sent in. We're going to hit them right now, and then stay with us. We're going to go through to the secret sauce that I'm going to share with you that your church can implement this Sunday that's going to massively help your community. All right, Haley, what we got?
Thanks, Todd. Yeah, we've been getting some great questions coming in on the chat stream, so you guys keep those coming. But to start with, Todd, can you just talk a little bit about what classifies as a bad song? How do you actually go about and choose a high-quality song?
Well, a high song I call a hit. Basically, if a lot of people can agree that the song is moving them, number one, if it's stirring emotion in them for some reason, and as Christians, we want to choose songs that are biblically sound. And that's great, but it's got to stir something. It's got to move you, and if it's not moving you and your team, it's not going to move your people. So I just say a great song is something that either brings emotion, like a tear to your eye, because you're dreaming of, what's to come in the future in Christ or what He's done for you. But it's just something that your team, as you song sift, can all go, man, there's something on this thing. And here's the deal, though. You guys are like panning for gold when you're doing this, and sometimes you have to try out a song in the right spot. You with your team, you don't want to put something that isn't moving your team out there, but you have to sometimes see if it's going to move your church, and if they respond to it, then you have a hit, and you put it away in your master list. Hope that answers that question. Haley, what else we got?
Along with the same idea of how to choose songs, how do you choose songs that have lyrics that could appeal to both Christians and non-Christians who might be in the congregation?
Yeah, that's a good question. I believe that people who don't know Christ, I believe worship can be a really powerful thing to witness. But our job as worship leaders is to help them understand what we're doing. So I try to train worship leaders, and what we try to help you with Worship Rocket is always remembering that Christians do need church, but non-believers need to know Jesus, and they need to know, why are we even singing? So I like to say, with the songs you choose, with the way you taught that in one of our modules, how to speak as well as you sing, but the way we train you is to keep in mind that we want to help everyone in the room understand the power of these songs as we set them up, and we teach you how to do that. So what else you got, Haley, before we go to the secret sauce?
The secret sauce. What if you've chosen your whole set list, but then the senior pastor comes and kind of overrides it and adds in what you consider to be a weak song? How would you handle that?
Wow, that's a hot potato. So we got any pastors listening today? Hopefully we do. We love our pastors, and we know you guys are on the front lines, and you've got so much more to think about oftentimes than we do. Guys, that happens a lot. And what I would say is, if that's happened to you, you've got to have a conversation with your pastor. There's got to be some trust there. Because I know for you as a worship leader, it would be like you going to tell him what to preach. And I know that would feel really weird to him. So maybe you can begin that dialogue. And if there's been kind of a hurt in the past about that, but you need to have that kind of relationship with your lead pastor, where you can have that trust and be able to say, hey, I'll take that into account. Here's what I think. Here's what I feel about your suggestion. It's not about you. Let's take the song away from you. I love you. Love what we're trying to do, but I think this is a better option. And you can agree to disagree. At the end of the day, he's your authority. My pastor's my authority. I need to go with it. But most of the pastors that I know, that they want to dialogue about it, and they do want your opinion. So I'll just let it be a conversation with all respect and humility. What else we got, Haley?
Awesome. What if you feel like you have a lack of commitment from your praise and worship team? Would you go with tracks or what would you do?
A lack of commitment from your praise and worship team. Can I get an amen? Can anyone raise their hand? Yeah, guys, this is my overarching view about worship leadership. I would rather have one person on a guitar or keyboard that's passionate about Jesus and skilled at their craft and who knows how to lead people than a tribe of people who are half-heartedly committed. That's a whole nother conversation and topic. We could spend a whole nother day. We actually do. Part of the bonus you're going to get today, if you jump in Worship Rocket with us, is a service craft system. And I talk about that extensively in one of the modules. But yeah, it's hard to make people, jump in and get excited about something. But I would say, when you're trying to reignite your worship culture, it's a big deal to look at the team players you have and whether or not they even need to be involved with the new direction you want to take things in. So I don't know if that answered your question, but that is a sticky one. I know it's hard to motivate people to someone, but with a lot of volunteer musicians are playing in our churches. And so it's so important to just love on them and serve them. We're going to talk about that here as we get to our last secret I'm going to share with you. All right, Haley, what we got time for? A couple more?
Yeah, I think we can do one more. This is something I'm sure a lot of people can relate to. What would you recommend to do when you feel like your church needs to transition from a traditional to more of a contemporary worship culture?
Get that all the time. I know most of us will have to deal with that at some point. A lot of you guys are dealing with the traditional and contemporary. To me, it's really just honoring the past and not burning the trail, and trying to cast a vision with your pastor for where you're going. A lot of churches are like, well, the band is contemporary and we don't want a band, but there's just a way to do it over time, slowly, where you involve different things and you lean into some hymns, you lean into some traditional songs, update them a little bit, introduce some new songs that the older congregation may be like, I had no idea this is a great song. And sometimes you can sneak it in and make it happen over time without it being so drastic. I think a lot of churches think that, well, we're going to go contemporary, so that means we're going to have a zillion lights and a band and all this stuff. And I don't think you got to go like all or nothing. You can kind of morph as you go through the months and have like a 1 year plan of transition. And super great question. And it happens to everybody. Someone said, that chat went by. I was trying to, oh, here it is. This is John. Haley, I was looking. He said, as a pastor, we also need to trust our worship leaders when it comes to worship. I tend to go with my worship leader rather than ask him to go with me. And I would agree with John that it's so important to have that relationship cultivated where there's trust. And, not to beat a dead horse, but one of the Worship Rocket models we have is about pastor worship leader relationship. That's key, guys. If there's a deficit there, that's definitely a massive thing to work on, because it's hard to be happy and hard to serve wholeheartedly when you feel like there's tension. All right, Haley, one more, and then we'll go on to this last principle.
Yeah, that's great. Alan says that as a church plant, they're trying to bring in the songs of the nations while balancing a desire for some older stuff. And if you only have 7 songs per service, how do you balance both of those things?
Wow, what's his name?
Alan.
Alan, you have 7 songs in the service. That's way more than we've ever had. So that's awesome. In a way, yeah, you're probably a more singing focused church. Just, a lot of worship going on in the singing realm. I would just say, what was the question again? Sorry, Haley. I was going on the 7 song thing. It's like, whoa, that's a lot of songs.
So they're a church plant trying to bring in the songs of the nations, but also desiring some older stuff.
Yeah, I think when we talk about song setting, Alan, it's something that would be huge for you guys to do, is just to trim the stuff that's you feel like is peripheral and go to the orthodoxy, just the stake, the foundation of where you guys are as a worship culture with your songs, and then gradually add, songs as you go along, some of the newer stuff. I don't ever add more than one song, and like maybe 2 songs a month. That's stretching it. Usually like 1 new song a month we'll delve into. So we're moving people along slowly. And you have to remember, guys, we're leading people that don't come to church every week. And we're leading people that a lot of them don't listen to worship music. So you as a worship leader may be tired. You may feel like this song's old, but I guarantee you that, people are just going to love a lot of songs that you may be a little bit tired of. And if you're tired of them, update them a little bit. Do something instrumentally with them that feels fresh. Do an acoustic set with them. Do them with just piano, and then bring the band in on the chorus too. Like, there's so many things you can do to change it up. All right, Haley, is that good? We can move on to this next section real quick.
That's great.
You good with? Okay, thanks for your help. Y'all give Haley a hand. I don't know if there's a hand emoji we can put in the chat stream. That would be fun. All right, guys. So we're at North Point. We're 20 years in, coming up on 21, and always trying to follow the Lord. Say, God, what's next? And we've got a lot of volunteers. I don't know if your church is most churches are volunteer dependent. We have, audio people that volunteer. We have, you probably have lighting people. If you have lights, you have people holding the doors. You got people in your band. So we've got a pretty big volunteer culture. And this is one of the things we started doing that I want to challenge you with. If your team feels like, let me back up a little bit. It's important for us as worship leaders to remember that leading worship is a whole church activity. You or I may have a title of we're the worship leader, but here's what I want you to do this week. And if you can't pull it off this week, pull it off next week. We want to do something called preheating. Okay. The biggest change agent is you with your team. So I want to charge you as the worship leader to share this secret with your pastor, with your team, and do this. I've had several of the guys that I've been coaching lately in a thing I do called Worship Circle do this, and it's made a massive impact. So I want you guys to implement this if you can. The biggest secret is to ask the question, what is happening with your team before the service? Okay. Before the service, you may say, Todd, we're running around like chickens with our heads cut off. We're trying to get sound. We're doing all this stuff. Well, whatever you have to do to plan enough time to spend at the least 10 minutes of preheating with your team, it's going to pay off massive dividends for your team and for your church service. Guys, I believe all volunteers are worship leaders. And I believe that if you as the worship leader don't charge them with that, cast vision for them as that, and involve them with worship leading with you, then you and I are missing a major opportunity to amplify worship in your church. So we want to, preheating looks like this. I don't know if you have a green room, a separate room, a place, but you need to meet with your volunteers before the service. We have breakfast. You don't have to have breakfast. Sometimes you can get some people to bring potluck or, do a special thing. But you want to have a meeting beforehand in the green room, and you want to be with all your volunteers, all your band. And before you have this meeting, you want to ask God what he wants for your team this week. For the first time you do this, I think it's important that you cast vision that they're worship leaders. So number 2, cast vision with your team ahead of time that you and or another leader are going to share with the whole team. So what that looks like for us is that we have somebody share a devotion or a snippet of something God's doing in them or through them, or he's shown them about this week. It could be the sound guy, the lighting lady, whoever, any volunteer. But the worship leader, we start out with the worship leader or the pastor, and we share with the team a thought or an idea of where we're going that God would have us share before service. And you thank these volunteers for all they do week after week, and you let them know that they're just as much a worship leader as those on stage. We all set the tone for worship. So you're casting vision for them. Then you want to have your devotional thought, lead them in the devotion. And this is the thing that blows my mind that we started doing. I'll take an acoustic guitar in there. Steve will do it. Brett will do it. Any of our leaders, Emily, and we'll worship together with a chorus or a main thought that reinforces the idea of what the devotion was about, or just the thought we had for the week. A few weeks ago, we haven't sung the song "How Great Is Our God" in a long time. And a few weeks ago, we were just talking about the power of that song, even the song lyrics, to our volunteer team. And we said, guys, today when we sing this song in the service, we want you to know that people are looking at you. You may be running sound, but man, go for it. Like, they're looking at your joy. You may be, helping people get seated in a row, but the way that you're singing, the way you're expressing and responding to God is so going to be a whole team effort of worship leading, more so than just the worship leader getting up there with the band and doing it. So this preheating idea can change your culture. And guys, we don't have time to waste. We don't have, we're not guaranteed another Sunday. We're not guaranteed more years. So today, I want you to pray about this. I want you to think in your heart and ask God to give you a vision. Lord, am I that person to cast vision for our team? I would say you are. And I would say you have a conversation with your pastor or whoever's in charge. And you say, hey guys, this is what I'm thinking we need to do. And I'd love to love on our volunteers. I'd love to share a thought. I'd love for us to sing together before we even hit the stage. And I promise God's going to do amazing things as you do that. So that's the last idea. Write that down, dream about it, pray about it. God wants to use you as the catalyst to ignite your worship team and ignite the worship culture in your church. All right, we have gone through, that's the final point. Let's take a few more questions, and then we're going to, before we give you your free gift, we're going to talk a little bit about Worship Rocket. We've got an offer for you today we'd love for you to pay attention to. And we're not talking about this just to blow smoke. We've had over 1,000 churches jump into the Worship Rocket culture, Worship Rocket tribe, and they are learning a ton of things that are helping them not only lead worship better, but to know they're not alone in the trenches like you guys are week after week. Worship Rocket is like a community, and you can be part of it. So, Haley, do we have any other questions real quick before we go to our big Worship Rocket offer for the day?
Absolutely. So someone asked, how many songs do you recommend having in your master set list or song list? And then along with that, David says, and how many do you recommend doing per service?
Okay. I like 25 in a master list. It could be 20, it could be 30. It depends on how many songs you do in a service. We do, some churches are heavily singing churches. Some, we try to keep our services to an hour. So the most we really ever do are 3. And that works great for us. People still can engage in worship, and the onus is on us as worship leaders to try to help people connect. So that's what we do. Sometimes we do 2, and we don't shy away from that. We just say, if we're going to do 2, we're going to make it the most unforgettable, engaging 2 songs we can, and it's going to be ridiculously powerful. So I don't think there's necessarily massive value to quantity all the time. I look more at quality and making, as we talked about before, the set list powerful, 2, 3, 4 songs, and making the transitions great and making sure you're singing the right songs. I think people would rather sing 2 to 3 highly engaged songs that they just love, that they know they're going to be able to really sing out on, than just sitting there and spectating for part of it. Awesome.
Great. Well, Brett asked, how do you teach showing passion and expressiveness to your team and to your congregation?
I'm sorry, go ahead. I was reading another question. You, Haley, can you reiterate that?
Yeah, this is from Brett. He asked, how do you teach showing passion and expressiveness to your team and to your congregation?
How do you keep showing passion? We don't want to be passive, and expressiveness. That's a tough one, Brett. It has to be real. And I know for me, there's a lot of Sundays that I'm going, dear Jesus, I need your help because this is my job, and my job is to really try to help people understand and passion and power the hope that they have in you. But today, I'm just not there. And leaders, I think and pastors listening, I think it's totally the best thing we can do is be honest with ourselves first. And sometimes I'll come in with our team, and Clay, our pastor at North Point, will say, "How's everybody doing?" And sometimes it's like, "Man, I'm just having a hard day." And that's okay, because then we're able to encourage each other. And I love my friend Charlie Hall. He says this: sometimes the songs we've chosen that we know are true can lead us in worship when we're not even there. So sometimes as a worship leader, the most engaging thing you can do to your people is say, "Guys, I've had a really hard week, and we're about to sing this song that I believe, but right now I need to know it for my own life. And you may be in the same boat with me, but we're going to sing this truth because we believe it's true." It's just being authentic, Haley. So yeah.
Great. Well, John asked, how do we find a dynamic, passionate, and spirit-filled worship leader? What will it take in 2016 to find and compensate an awesome worship leader?
What will it take to find and compensate one? Golly, that's a great question. A lot of networking. I know my friends at over at Slingshot do that. You can email me at the Rocket Company. You can email us, and they'll get in touch with me. I network all the time, but it's just keeping your eyes and ears out. A lot of times you can find young worship leaders in college towns, in campus ministries. And much like a football scout, you got to go call up the director and go attend something and watch some young leaders lead. And your church and that community may be a great place to, for your family to be a family for them while they're at college, and they may be able to jump in, and you may find somebody right there in your own town. That's a great place to start looking. What else we got?
How often do you recommend changing your master song list?
We change basically every quarter, every few months. And what you do is you go through the sifting process again. You go, here's the 25 we've had. What new songs we want to implement, or have we implemented? And is there anything here that needs to just kind of fall away for a season? So every few months.
Okay. Here's one more. What if you sense that there's people in your service who don't really value worship or singing?
There are people that don't value worship and singing. That's okay. That doesn't mean they're bad people, and that doesn't mean they don't get it. There's some people that are very cerebral. They're thinkers, and they're moved by thought more than they are maybe melody and music, and that's okay. God made us different. But I would just try as a worship leader to connect even more with their mind as you set up songs to try to help them understand. Because when you connect, and we teach you how to do this in Worship Rocket in Module 1, how to speak as well as you sing. But when you connect a song with a story, with a real life example before you sing that song, it totally amplifies engagement in a major way. So any more before we move on to our big offer?
Yeah, we'll do one more. This is just kind of a fun one. Michael asked, what are your 3 favorite worship songs right now?
Oh my goodness. My number one, and it's an old song, but I told Jason Ingram the other day, "In Christ Alone," he and Leslie with All Sons and Daughters wrote, the Gettys, sorry, "In Christ Alone." That's one of them. The other one is "Great Are You, Lord." That's the one Jason Ingram and I were talking about, because he and Leslie wrote that. And then the third one is "Good, Good Father." And I know it's overdone and everybody's doing it, but those are my top 3. They're not big rah-rah songs, but I'll tell you guys this. I believe, and I told Jason Ingram this the other day on Facebook, "Great Are You, Lord," that song teaches people how to worship without them knowing they're worshiping. It's one of those songs that if you lead it well, and it's doing what we were created to do, but you don't have to give it a ton of setup. It just sings well. And there's something about that bridge when you hit it, I believe it's a foreshadowing of what we're all made for and coming to one day when we stand in front of Christ. It's a great song. So those are my top 3 right now. They're all mid-tempo, but I love them and I love leading them. Is that it for questions for now?
Yeah, that's it for now. We'll do a few more in a couple more minutes.
Okay, guys, Haley and I are on here. We're going to give you guys an offer today. And first of all, thanks for hanging out. We know your time is valuable. I know what it feels like to feel like you're alone in an office or a cubby or in your church, or you're volunteering, leading worship, and you're like, my time's valuable, but I want to jump in this thing to learn. So kudos to you. The people who are going to do better at leading and grow in their worship leading are the ones who are going to pay attention to it, and the ones that want to further their education and continue to learn. And so you guys are the cream of the crop of worship leaders that I've been with, because you're even jumping in and you want to grow and you want to begin the dialogue and the discussion and get better. So we've got something for you today. If you want to learn more, if you've enjoyed this webinar, and Haley's going to hit this next slide, we have a Worship Rocket core coaching program. And basically it's 12 video modules of me teaching, and you can watch them by yourself. You can watch them with your team. We've had churches put it up on the big screen and have the whole band come in once a month for training, and their whole service team watches these videos and they get on board. We've had about 1,000 churches jump in to do it, join the Worship Rocket tribe. Every single one of them we've gotten so much feedback. So we know this program can help you take your worship leadership to the next level. And we believe, not just because we want it to, we've seen it happen, and we get testimonial after testimonial. In the modules, you're going to get modules like how to speak as well as you sing. That's the number one thing I think worship leaders struggle with, and I'm here to help you. We start off with that. We start in the next module, how to pick the right songs. Again, module 6, how to get people to sing, how to perform, how to have a great relationship with your senior pastor. All these things are things we prayed about, just years of experience boiled down into powerful principle-packed modules in a video format for you and your team to watch once a month. You get it in your inbox. Number 2, you get MP3s, you get done for you PDFs that you can pass out to your team as you're watching the teaching videos. You can have a dialogue. And guys, this can become a major shot in the arm for you and your worship culture and your team. So that's the Worship Rocket system. That's what I lead, what we're doing. 12 modules, they are right there. Today we have a sale on Worship Rocket. Normally, it's a $999 system that most people take care of over a year or a one-time payment. Today, you can get the entire system that's going to carry you and your culture, your church, your team, your volunteers toward a better version of worship leadership. You can get it for $799 today only, until 12 p.m. midnight, or you can break it down into 3 payments of $279. And the way you get it right now is you go to worshiprocket.offer. Worship leaders ask me all the time, Todd, why do we have to pay money for stuff? I say it this way: I don't show up for things I don't pay money for. I don't value things that I don't pay money for. And so we've put a lot of time and effort and resources into crafting the best material we can, shooting it in high quality video, giving you and your team access for it, putting all these resources together. And we want you to be part of our tribe. We want you to jump in with us. Once you jump in and you're a Worship Rocket member, you're going to be in a private Facebook group with me and about, 500 other worship leaders from around the world. And you can post questions in there all day long, and I will jump in. I moderate the thing, jump in, answer them. You have access to me for a year. You have access to other churches all over. You're part of the Worship Rocket tribe. So that's our offer right now, worshiprocketoffer.com. It should be on your webinar jam. We want to encourage you to jump on that. That's just for today till 12 midnight. If you need to get approval, and a lot of you do because you need to go to your finance person at church, you need to go to your pastor, do it now before 12 tonight. If you've got the ability to pull the trigger on it now, do it. You will not regret it. And if you're looking at it going, I just can't come up with that, I would encourage you to reach out to people that you know believe in what God is doing through you and your ministry at your church, and let them know about this opportunity and let them partner with you to help resource it so that you can jump in and be a Worship Rocket member. Today, in addition, if you join right now, you also get Service Craft, which is going to be a ton of more modules on volunteer training, all kind of different aspects of your church. There's so many we can't even, I mean, everything you would want to know for volunteers, for even more in-depth worship modules and stuff for worship teams and worship leaders and lead pastors as well. Plus, a year and a half, 2 years ago, I did a Lead Worship Well event with Louis Giglio, Andy Stanley, Cliff Barrows from the Billy Graham Association, Chris Tomlin, Christy Knuckles, all tons of friends, Kim Walker Smith, all these different leaders. We did interviews, and you get all that teaching in that entire episode, which is like a $319 value. You get that today thrown in if you become a Worship Rocket member right now and you join our team, join our tribe. So we can't wait to see you jump in with us. We hope you will follow through and become a Worship Rocket member. We're here for you to answer any questions you have about the program. There's going to be people on this text stream right now. And if you have any questions after that, you can just contact me. But jump on the offer as soon as you can, worshiprocketoffer.com. And I can't wait to coach you and be there for you so that you don't feel alone, and so that you learn principles that are going to help you take your worship leadership and your church's worship culture to the next level to be the best it can be. So believe that you guys can do it. Believe that God has called you to do what you do. And I'm just honored to partner with you today. Hopefully you've learned a lot, and we look forward to seeing you as a Worship Rocket member. Hopefully you can jump in with us. Haley, do we have any final questions before we sign off? Anybody got any questions about the Worship Rocket program or anything they'd like to add? We'll take those questions now. I will hang out and be here for you.
Yeah, so Joe has asked if you could speak on the balance between art and skill and the heart.
The difference between art and skill and the heart. Okay, I think I know what you're asking, Joe. A lot of times people in music will tell you, I have a heart for Jesus. I love God. I have a sincere heart to worship him and praise him. But maybe their artistic abilities or their music abilities don't match up with the size of the heart they have for Jesus. But they're telling you that, you know, I need to be involved because I have a heart for this. First of all, God looks at the heart, man looks at the outward appearance. We know that from scripture, so that's a huge deal. Anyone on our worship team needs to have a heart for Jesus. And that can lead down a whole rabbit trail. Sometimes we use non-believers as a drummer only for evangelistic purposes to love on them. Some churches don't do that. But all that to say, care for the heart, but don't sacrifice quality in what you do just because somebody wants to worship Jesus. You are in charge of the quality and the excellence, and in charge of finding the best worship leaders and musicians you can. And you should not apologize from that. Ken and I, it says in the Old Testament, Ken and I, the head Levite, was in charge of singing. That was his responsibility because he was skilled at it. So even when they were putting temple worship together in the Old Testament, they were choosing the most skilled people. Doesn't mean that God doesn't love everybody. He does. But there are certain people that are skilled at it, and those need to be the ones that you plug in to lead your church. Next question, Haley.
Laura asks, how old is too old to lead worship in a contemporary culture?
Wow, you're asking somebody who's almost 40. No, I just turned 47. How old is too old? I don't know. In a contemporary setting, I would like to say that if you're in tune with good music, you don't have to stop. But I think it's important to involve different age groups in your team so that, you know, you're still with it, you're still connected, you're still doing powerful music. And I don't know that there is an end age. You know, as I approach 50, I'm not leading quite as much. I'm doing a lot more teaching, a lot more coaching because I want to empower leaders, but that's okay. It's a seasonal thing. But I think you can do it as long as you want to, as long as you're asking your culture and your leadership team if it feels right, you know. So all I can say is I'm going out with a bang, and I'm going to keep loving Jesus and, digging into music and making it great till, I can't do it anymore. So I hope that you guys are the same way. Next question.
Great. Chloe asked, what if some of your worship volunteers don't have the same passion that you do as the leader?
What if your volunteers don't have the same passion? That's a good question. It's up to you to lead people in the passion that you have. So it's up to me to do that, to transfer that, and to cast vision for why we do what we do. I think a lot of times people lose passion because they haven't understood the opportunity that they have and the onus that we have to handle well and handle rightly the gospel of Jesus and leading people in that. So the onus is on us. And if people are not passionate, then I'd say find people that are, if they can't be led there.
Great. This one just came in from Chloe. It says, when it comes to, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. When it comes to skill and heart, where do you draw the line when the volunteer wants to be a part of it more for showing their skills than being a part of really leading worship?
I don't use them. I want people who want to lead people in worship. Here's the deal, guys. We fight all the time for the wrong reasons. And I always question people's motives, especially in a culture where there's a stage. If someone can't come to me and say, hey, I'm here to serve however you guys want to use me, and really mean it, and then still be in the game, if I say we need you to run monitors or we need you to help stack guitar, mic stands, then that's not the kind of person you want on your worship team. You want servants. And unfortunately, a lot of people want to be on the stage because you're in front of people. I look at it like, it's a lightning rod. We got the glory of God coming down, and you got to make sure as best as possible that your heart's pure and you're not doing it to try to build your name or your reputation. God won't stand for that, and it just doesn't last, so cool.
Great. That's awesome. And we'll do one more question here, Todd. This is from Hollis, and he says, how do you tell someone that they're not skilled enough to be on the team?
Thanks, Hollis. Great question. Lovingly. And if it's someone that's invested a lot of time with you and you've got a relationship with, just love on them and let them know you're not letting them out of a relationship, that you do care about them, and that you're committed to helping them find the gifting that they have that they do that everyone would take notice of. I think that's the biggest thing that we have to try to help people understand, especially volunteers. If they're not cutting it on an instrument, that means that they, and we want to, rather than you beating your head against the wall and something that's just not gelling from what, there's got to be something God's created you to do that when you do it, the world takes notice and our whole church goes, oh my gosh, that's what you need to be doing. So I always try to cast the vision of you're missing out on what God created you for. And human nature is to fight for what we think we were created for. But when the cloud of witnesses around you are saying, hey, you're not the best guitar player, we love you, but it's just not coming easy to you. It's out of tune. It's not right. It doesn't feel right. We're here for you. We're your friend, but we've got to move on to a different player, or, can you come and just serve? It's sticky and it's hard, but the Lord will help you and walk beside you. And it's always good to do it with maybe another person helping you as well. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today. Again, this offer is only good. It's good right now if you act on it. One-time payment of $7.99 for the entire Worship Rocket system, or 3 payments of $279. We'll spread that out so it's easier for your church. Get approval right now. Jump in with us. We can't wait to see you in more in our Facebook group and teach you more with all the content we have. It's help hundreds and hundreds of churches, literally. And if you act today, just a reminder, you get Service Craft and the entire Lead Worship Well event as part of the package. So we can't wait to have you on board. Thanks for jumping.
Todd,
yep.
One quick question that just came in from John Lee about Worship Rocket. He asked, if our church purchases Worship Rocket, can our worship leaders share the videos within our whole worship team?
Absolutely. Yes, you can.
Wonderful.
And that's the way to use it. We would hope you would use it that way. Guys, you stuck around to the end. You are troopers. You listen to me talk and ramble for an hour. Hopefully, you've learned some things that are going to help you. We do care about you. We know how hard it is being on the front lines like you are. As a thank you for free, we're giving you today the art of implementing tags and worship sets, just some basic principles on what to think about as you're planning your sets. And tags can transform moments in your service. So click on the link in the chat stream that was just put there by Haley, and you can get that right now for staying on. We promise we give it to you, and it is yours. And do not miss that. Do not miss the Worship Rocket offer. If you need for a few minutes to talk it over with your lead pastor or your finance person or somebody who can help you fund it, we hope you do that. We would love to have you on board in our tribe. Once again, Worship Rocket offer today, one time $7.99 or 3 payments of $279. I'm Todd Fields with the Rocket Company, thanking you for being here with us today. We hope it's been awesome. We've loved seeing you and just seeing from all the churches you're coming from around the world. Literally, it's been a blast. So we'll be doing one of these again soon, and can't wait to see you then. Tell more people about it as we continue to build this tribe of leaders who want to grow in their worship leadership so that week after week they can empower more people, help more people know who Jesus is and what he's done for them. Thanks for being with us today.